Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I am your host Omar Khalid, but today is Friday the 24th of May 2024 and the week comes to an end, but the stories keep on coming. Now today's lineup includes a lot of stories on economy. We'll begin with the IMF and Pakistan that have made significant progress as far as their discussions are concerned. Nathan Porton, when he left after the first round of discussions, has said that it has been very fruitful. This is what he referred to as these discussions and the way forward, and he said that they are going to continue with virtual discussions in the future. How is that going to relate as far as the upcoming program that Pakistan is trying to obtain from the IMF is concerned, and how is the relationship between the IMF and Pakistan? We are going to discuss that in detail in our first segment. Our second story concerns the visit to the United Arab Emirates of our Prime Minister and the economic dividends that it has and can bring in the coming days as well. We all know that an amount of $10 billion have been pledged by the President of the UAE during his meeting with the Prime Minister Shehbazsharif. That and all the other meetings that were held during the Prime Minister's one-day trip to the UAE have been extremely important and significant, and that is what we are going to discuss in our second segment. Then we are going to talk about a Pakistani national who has won 2 Emmy Awards this year. He already won 1 Emmy Award a year before, but now he has won 2 as far as his best art direction and post-production is concerned. We will be talking to him exclusively on PTV World. Then we will be talking about a space telescope that has unveiled new images of the cosmos, a mind-boggling number of shining galaxies, a purple and orange star nursery and a spiral galaxy that is very similar to our own Milky Way have been revealed from Europe's Euclid Space Telescope on Thursday. Finally, we are going to talk about the International Day of the Markhor that is being observed today across the world, and this day recognizes the importance of preserving the markhor and its natural habitat, which had been listed as near threatened species in the year 2014, and of course this highlights the need to protect it and its ecosystem as well. It is very prevalent in Pakistan, in the mountainous regions, but also in other countries like India, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. Let's begin with our lineup for today and our 2 important stories that both concern economy. The first is the relationship of Pakistan and the IMF. The first round of discussions for this new program of $6 to $8 billion has already finished. The team has left Pakistan on a very positive trajectory, and note what now leaves to be seen is how both the sides will move forward. We've been joined by 3 guests to talk about this segment and the other, so we'll have a continuity as far as Pakistan's economy and these 2 stories are concerned. In the studios, we've been joined by 2 very, very interesting guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. Abdul Jaleel Saab, senior economist, joins us after a long hiatus. He's a bit angry with me, but nevertheless, welcome back to our show. And Dr. Nasir Iqbal, head of PIDE Macro Policy Lab. Dr. Saab, pleasure to have you here, or after a shorter span of time than Abdul Jaleel Saab, but nevertheless, good to have you here. Finally, Dr. Usman Chohan, a political economist who joins us online. Usman, thank you very much to have joined us as well. Pleasure to have you on board on our shows on economy. Let's begin with you, Abdul Jaleel Saab. IMF opens discussions with Pakistan on a new loan program after the completion of the $3 billion SBA program that Pakistan really successfully implemented, and with all the preconditions that had been put forward by the IMF. Now, terming this first round of discussions as fruitful, Nathan Porter, who is the mission chief, said the mission and the authorities will now continue policy discussions virtually over the coming days, aiming to finalize the discussions. How do you see the relationship of the IMF with Pakistan? In the wake, I know there have been many programs in the past that have not been completed. One was in 2016 that was completed, and then was the SBA that has recently been completed. How do you feel that this recent completion of the SBA with all the preconditions of the IMF will bode for the future of the relationship between the IMF and Pakistan and the program that Pakistan is asking for?
Thank you very much, Omar Saab. What I want to say, we have carried out IMF program for a number of years.
This is the 24th program.
And this is the 24th program. And what we have to see is that we have to chart out our economic development policy in keeping in view that how much our industrial infrastructure and agriculture infrastructure should be developed, so that we should be able to raise and expand our export in the country. This is the weakest part or the weakest aspect of our national economy right now. And the national economy, we are all suffering because of the lack of the sufficient, the export that we need to earn foreign exchange. In this respect, I would like to say that number one, we have to bring about a very friendly investment policy in the country in order to win the confidence of the investor. That's very important, number one. Number two, we have to our procedures and governance structure is very complicated. Procedures involve a lot of energy, of the investors or of the business community, and they have a lot of complaint. In this respect, I would like to say that the government should pay a very close attention to this, to the simplification of the procedure and the governance structure that presently in working. Number two, and number three, comes taxation department. The taxation department has got the FBR has got a very critical role to play. In this respect, we have to see that the taxation policy should be very moderate. It should not give a message to the business community or investor community that we are more interested in squeezing money from them, at every cost through coercive means. We have to develop a very friendly income tax policy in which the investors feels confident enough to make willing contribution to the state exchequer.
All right.
Right? And the IMF conditionality is that still the informal sector of economy is quite large. It is about 67% of the GDP. That has to be covered. Although informal sector in its own place plays very important and a creative role in development of economy. It provides job to a number of people. It provides services to but in any case, it has to be brought into the national taxation system through proper documentation of economy. And the IMF has placed a lot of emphasis in this respect. But we have to see that how we will have to make some financial input in development of FIR, and some reformers needed. Thank you.
All right. All right. Dr. Nasir Iqbal, you've heard Jaleel Saab, he talked about in the industrial sector, the agriculture sector, he talked about the investment policy simplification procedure, he talked about taxation, income tax policy, informal sector of economy that needs to be catered to as well. Now, I'd like to just go back a little bit, talk about the, this mission of Nathan Porton that was here. As soon as he leaves, we see that certain indicators go towards the better. We see the, the KSE 100 index breached the 76,000 level. Do you feel, that our economic indicators are going to improve as a result of the positive outcome of this first round of discussions? B, adding to what Jaleel Saab said, what measures does Pakistan need to take to ensure that the new program gets approved?
I think thank you so much for taking me on this very important issue. I fully endorse what Jaleel Saab said about the need of the hour of the economy. So let me go back a little bit, as you mentioned that we are observing a positive indicator on many fronts, like GDP growth is relatively better as compared to the previous year. Inflation is going down substantially from 30% to roughly 17%. So there are some dividend, because now there is some stability in the political system as well after this new government, and probably the investor and the other are seeing that it would continue for next 5 years, and that will help us to revive the economy. Now, specific to the IMF that you mentioned, that we have to take IMF as a injection when we are in an emergency.
True.
So last year we were in an emergency, we took an injection and we little bit have a stabilization. Now for the next like 2 to 3 years, we again need some sort of a quick support from these financial institutions.
But ultimately we need to come out of the whole financial situation of lending
So
programs.
that is like an emergency need, and probably, and this time IMF is to some extent happy with the reform measure we have taken in the last government, but they are demanding similar like measure from us to go beyond and go into the next program. So to this extent there is always to some extent there is a positive news. But what kind of measure we are really looking for to make sure that once we completed this next round of IMF program, we will be in a position to one, revive our economy by ourselves and also sustain our economy. These are the two main issues. It's not about the revival of the economy, it's the sustainability of the economy. For that, I think Jaleel Sahab rightly mentioned few important points. I really endorse those them. First, most important component is investment. Country's revival depends on investment. There are two kind of investment, foreign, as you mentioned that we are hoping some investment from friendly country.
UAE, Saudi Arabia
but
as well as
the key component investment is our domestic investment. Do we have any mechanism that support our domestic investment? Still we are lacking. In that front, government need to do a lot of work. The simplification in procedure and
is very important.
And that would be the first component. The second component is the trust that government has have to ensure that whatever the policy
it will continue.
Committed that this will be the policy for next 5 or next 10 years. They must ensure that they will keep that policy. That could be the key. So on the investment, we need to do a lot of work. We have to encourage our local businessmen, our local investor to make investment, because if we get some sort of investment from friendly country, ultimately we have to pay in the dollar.
Of course.
And if we are unable to increase our export, we may be end up with the similar situation that we have with the China. China make an investment, we promise that we will allow you to repatriate your benefit, your profit, but in dollar, we don't have a dollar. So that's why we are struggling with the China in terms of repatriation of the profit. So we for the export, we have to create ease of doing business. That is the prerequisite. For that, we have to streamline our bureaucratic structure, we have to streamline our NOC culture, we have to streamline our taxation system, we have to streamline our clearance mechanism. So these are the ingredients, and we have to must focus on these ingredients. We are focusing on currently the entire focus is on the IMF, and we are trying to do whatever we can do to get 6 billion, 7 billion, but it's nothing. Though it creates a lot of stability in the system.
But at the end of the day, we need to create a stability that is long term.
Yeah, our need is 20 billion. IMF
even more.
Yeah, IMF only gave you like 3 to 5 billion in a year if it's a 3 years program. Even if it's a 9 billion, it will give you only 3 billion. And what about the remaining 17 billion? We have to work for those 17 billion as well. And PIDE aggressively suggesting lot of reforms, what would be the future and what would be the way forward beyond IMF. We need to start thinking beyond IMF. Currently, Ministry of Finance and other ministries, relevant ministries, only working how we can get this IMF package. They are not looking beyond these packages. So we have
need to look out of the box as well.
We have to look beyond this IMF program, and PIDE suggested lot of reform. One of few reforms, as Jaleel Sahab already mentioned, we give a complete roadmap. We give each and every aspect of the economy where reforms are needed, how we can do those reforms. For specifically taxation, we are coming with a proposal where the headline for our proposal are tax reforms where we have the low tax rate, but we are creating a facilitation mechanism that create a dividend. We are recommending low tax rate with the facilitation mechanism, and our finding, our simulation show that if we even reduce the tax rate, but we facilitate the people, we allow the businessmen to do their business, that economic activity ultimately yield a similar tax that we are assuming with the high tax rate. So these kind of solution we are needed. We have to reform our entire FBR structure.
But that is something that had already been started in the interim government.
But still there is a political phenomena behind these reforms. We have to look into the economic reforms. The term economic reform is missing. We always deal all these aspects with the angle of either political angle or with the bureaucratic angle.
So we need to look at it from a typically 100% purely economic angle.
Yeah, we need economic mind. I was just reading an article early in the morning. He phrase the entire reform package with the economic mind. Unless we have economic mind at the political level, at the religious level, at the cultural level, at the societal level, we will not achieve the desired objective of sustainable growth. Sometimes we have a very high growth, 6%, 4%, then suddenly we collapse into a minus growth rate. So this is a cyclical pattern, and cyclical pattern is very dangerous for the revival of the economy.
Exactly, because this is, an economy needs to continue in the same way and only develop, not have ups and downs. It needs to grow up and grow in a very steady and in a stable manner.
If you look into the average growth of last 10 years, you end up with a negative growth rate. Like roughly 2.5%, 2%, our population growth rate is 3%, roughly 2.7, 2.8, even 3%. So the net growth rate is minor. So over the last 10 years, even if we go little bit back over the last 20 years, our growth trend is going downward. This is the only country in the region where the growth rate is negative. If we compare with the neighboring country, they have a very high growth rate with the same situation.
But I think it comes out to a lot of things, and I'm sure that you understand the first thing is the continuity of policy. We need to have a political resolution on all economic policies. Every single political party needs to be on the same footing as far as moving forward with these economic policies is concerned, and this need to continue for the next 10, 15, 20 years so that our economy finally develops. Because what happens, as we very well know, a new government comes, the government says the previous government's policies are not correct, not in line with their policies, and they completely change the whole narrative, and that results in what you have just said, an incontinuity of policies. Usman, you have been hearing our two eminent guests since quite some time. I'd like to add a little bit and ask your opinion on it. There are a lot of things that have already been discussed: tax rate, simple tax rate with facilitation, sustainable growth, reforms. I go back to the statement by the IMF when their delegation left Pakistan, and the statement says the authorities, of course referring to Pakistan, and their reform program aims to move Pakistan from economic stabilization to strong, inclusive and resilient growth. When you talk of strong, inclusive and resilient growth, what does the IMF mean for Pakistan? Secondly, the IMF also says that it plans to continue to strengthen public finances to reduce vulnerabilities by improving domestic revenue mobilization through fairer taxation, something that Dr. Shehbaz also pointed out, while scaling up spending for human capital, social protection and climate resilience. What methodology, in your point of view, needs to be applied to strengthen public finances through fairer taxation?
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. I do fully agree with my two esteemed colleagues, and insofar as your questions go about the IMF and taxation, we have successfully gone through a tough period. We have weathered a difficult storm, essentially, since the end of COVID. And when this agreement and this process has finalized, we are now entering into a new agreement. That's what we're aiming for, and that's what we're laying the groundwork for now. And things are moving ahead in that direction. Personally, I believe that a strong tax effort for Pakistan, which is more based on tax breadth rather than tax depth, would be ideal. The way we go about this in discussions with the IMF is that we propose measures to them, because they don't tell us specifically what to do necessarily. What they do is they ask for certain targets to be met in order for sustainability to be achieved. When we propose the sorts of targets, oftentimes because of an absence of political will, as you have mentioned, as well as broad-based societal sacrifice, what we end up doing instead is going for methods such as indirect taxation. And that's where you see the prices at the petrol pumps rising. That's where you see electricity bills rising, gas prices rising, and now probably for the budget that's coming, we'll look at a higher GST for specific commodities such as tobacco. So we have to collect it from somewhere, and we're talking at a magnitude of trillions of rupees. It's a very significant amount, and what I would rather have is broad-based, equitable, fair, neutral and simpler taxation mechanisms. But tax will be a very important part of it, and as we have talked plenty of times before, tax is only one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is expenditure, and that's where I think more important and more significant decisions will be made, because you always have to look at the balance between what you are taxing and what you are spending. And it all should be seen through the prism of public value. So you can tax a lot if you're creating a lot of value. But if you ask the ordinary person, they'll probably tell you they're not getting as much as they feel they're being squeezed. And everybody is being squeezed because everybody has to go through indirect taxation. So everybody has to pay that. So I would like more public value to be created, fewer expenditures, and taxation can be higher, but it has to be broadly spread across, that everybody is paying their fair share. And this is somewhat absent from the discussion, because we tend to go as a society from jumping from episode to episode, rather than, as you correctly said, continuity. And that continuity's absence means that we have to look for quick fixes to remedy immediate problems. But there's always a difference between the urgent and the important. And I think that this should be our last IMF program, if we can focus more on the things that are important rather than those that are merely urgent.
Let's hope things go that way, and let's hope also, as I'm sure my two eminent guests in the studio want also, that this be the last program, and that we go with policies that are sustainable, that are long term, and that are continued irrespective of which government comes into power. Let's come to the Prime Minister's visit to the United Arab Emirates, and of course all his efforts that we are seeing to bring more and more investment. Pakistan's vision of trade and not aid from friendly countries is more or less materializing. We've seen that $10 billion have been committed by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia during the high-power delegation's visit to Pakistan in May. Then the UAE now has promised $10 billion US dollars again during this one-day visit of our Prime Minister to the UAE. Jaleel Sahab, how encouraging are these commitments? Do you feel this reflects a confidence of the world leaders in the Shehbaz-Sharif-led government's efforts to revamp Pakistan's economy? What's your take on that?
This is a step in the right direction. You know very well that the economic development depends upon how much connectivity you have got in your regional markets. The regional country should be well connected through their trade network, through their infrastructure networks. And our economy depends a lot upon, you know, the Gulf states, these Gulf states, Saudi Arabia and UAE and Qatar and etc., which have not only absorbed a huge manpower, but also they serve for us a very good market.
We have a huge FDI also that comes thanks to these markets.
That's very important. So I would say that we must review our policy. We should adopt some smart mechanism for exporting our manpower, highly qualified professionals to this region, because this region has got a lot of potential for its development.
True.
You know, as you know, and the whole world, even the West, they are well entrenched within the framework of the Western economy as well, and we automatically become part of the Western economy. And I think so that whatever there were some missing link, they are to be identified and they should be developed again. It's very, very important. Secondly, we should try to develop, you know, regional markets by developing and by furtherance of the connectivity, such as this Central Asia, Afghanistan, Iran, and because this is the region which provides you more or less like a virgin market, where your lot of goods and the services can be absorbed. Pharma sector, for example, in the pharma sector has got a very good future in Central Asia and even in Afghanistan as well. Then heavy engineering is good, heavy electronic goods, and IT. And the IT services has
that is also a very lucrative market for the
software
Emirates.
development. Yes, Emirates as well. So we have to identify those areas in which we should be able to, you know, to develop our goods and the services to those regions. And then connectivity, I would say already some work has been done. And this CPEC provides you a good opportunity, and I think that
our Prime Minister is going to China very soon.
Very soon, and I think so. I think so that initially what was proposed as they wanted to develop a dedicated economic free zone. Those issues, those proposals should be taken, and those commitments should be developed, should be fulfilled as early as possible, so that the investor could get service through one window operation. That's very important.
I agree. Dr. Nasir, our Prime Minister emphasizes the need to bolster cooperation in information technology, renewable energy, tourism. Then he talks about important implementation of investment agreements that cover energy, port operations, waste management, food security, logistics, minerals, financial services. How important, A, do you feel is the thorough implementation of these arrangements? And we come back to what you said about the IMF and the procedures that need to be simplified, a procedure that needs to be a one-window operation, and something that is the ease of doing business that you referred to as well, that is extremely important. When you look at all these avenues that the UAE is very interested in, and other countries I'm sure are interested in as well, when the PM will go to China, the CPEC is one huge market for all of these and more avenues. What should be, in your point of view, the methodology of implementation of agreements on all of these important, avenues of cooperation, and how do you see this as a very exciting avenue for further strengthening, cooperation between countries, as we have never seen in at least in the last decade?
Yeah, let me start with a very funny example. Maybe it will give you the answer. So I was visiting Karachi for interviewing few businesses, especially MNCs, to what kind of problems they have. It's like back in 2007-8. So, so they said, so one of the key issue that we have is the litigation issue.
Okay.
So whenever, that's why we are not expanding our businesses, because whenever we try to expand, there is always an issue of litigation, and we didn't find any solution. And your court, those are working, they didn't respond in a very professional way. So one of the issues that currently we are facing the same problem. Especially the friendly country, why they are shy in making investment. They are committing these type of investment over the last few years, but they are not materializing. The reason that one that you have mentioned, that the implementation structure, are we ready to absorb those investments? Because for that we have to make a preparedness, we have to make our own plan, we have to equip our infrastructure
in a way that whenever the money comes through whichever organization or company that wants to invest in Pakistan, they should have no issue whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the key. So the second component, are our court ready to give a leverage to these companies to run their business as per their contract?
So don't you feel the SIFC could be very important?
I will come to that. So the SIFC could be one instrument that provide a confidence to these investors. Over the last 1.5 years, they are working with these countries to give them lot of hope that come to us, make investment. We will give you the one window space to deal all kind of issues. And we also committing that if there is any litigation issue, we can use the global or international platform to address those issues. So if you don't believe, if you don't trust in our system, we will give you the leverage. So these kind of leverage we are providing to these countries. So now they are thinking what kind of investment they can make to us, as you mentioned, a lot of areas, and probably their key interest in the oil sector, especially the UAE interested to create a storage capacity in our port where they can where they can supply a few oil to
minerals is also something that a lot of countries are interested in, including the UAE.
Yeah, these are the one of the underdeveloped area in our country. So they feel there is a huge potential. If they make investment, they can have a dividend on that. So they are interested in those areas. They are also interested in agriculture sector, because the food is the key, especially in the coming years. So they are making investment in those areas. So these are the areas where they are interested to make investment. But as you slightly touch this, the CPEC and the China and the dividend, why we didn't materialize the benefit of CPEC? This is a question to us. Same like that, if they come up with the investment, how we can get the benefit out of this whole investment?
I think PIDE will discuss that tomorrow in the day.
We will discuss all these things. We provide these type of solution to give a trust to local investors. Maybe they make a small investment, but that is super important in terms of creating a linkages between the MNC and our local investor, because the local investor in some way provide the raw material, some way provide the labor, some way provide the skilled setup to these MNCs. So there will be a win-win situation. On the one hand, they are getting the benefit. On the other hand, we are getting at least employment in these sectors.
Of course.
So for that, we should make a very clear agenda, and that agenda should we call economic agenda rather than a political agenda. And for that, I wrote an article where I say that we need a charter of power as well, where every stakeholder should remain within their power and contribute toward the success of economic agenda. So everyone
this is
should
something that
work.
all the stakeholders need to know and need to digest, that at the end of the day, this is economic success of the country and everybody is going to reap the dividends.
And also admit that until unless we keep within our domain, the economic agenda will not be materialized.
Agreed. Usman, I'd like to come to you because you always wait very patiently. I'll couple up 2 or 3 questions and ask your point of view on it. 1.8 million Pakistani diaspora in the UAE. Importance of human capital for consolidating Pakistan's economic outlook. Then our Prime Minister, who says that we are not seeking loans but joint collaborations and investments which will be mutually beneficial for both the UAE and Pakistan. Then he commends the UAE for its visionary leadership in diversifying the economy beyond oil and gas and paving the way for a future that is focused on industrial growth, youth empowerment and digitalization, positioning the UAE as a hub for import as well as export. Can Pakistan follow in the UAE's footsteps, as the PM points out on the leadership of the UAE and how they have changed the whole landscape? 3 questions coupled in one. Your take, your comment.
Thank you. Thank you for this very important set of questions vis-a-vis the UAE. We have a very special relationship with the UAE since its independence in the 70s. Basically, as I will present to you a counter argument, in fact, we have to look at this relationship with a higher degree of esteem on our side, because it was our people that built that country. I don't know any Gulf Arabs who have worked a day in their life. It was Pakistani sweat, tears that built UAE as well as other Gulf countries. And when we talk about UAE bringing $10 billion here, as recent journalistic insights have shown, Pakistanis have 22,000 properties at the very least worth 13 billion. And this is a principle, I'm bringing this up because it's a principle of the developing world as a whole. That, for example, Africa is a net creditor to the world, even though the narrative frames them as the weak debtor. They are the creditors. The same with Pakistanis. They are the ones who are going out, investing, being enterprising. Pakistanis are, if not the second, then at least the third fastest generators of new businesses registered in the UAE. And the UAE therefore has a very special location within this region, taking in the capital from Iran and from Pakistan and other countries, and then creating a space where all of them can do business. Your question therefore is, can Pakistan replicate that? It's not necessarily that we replicate that because we are, I would argue, like our immediate neighbors, real grounded societies. So we are not taking capital from elsewhere and then creating a hub. We are the source of capital and labor. And ideally, we would do trade directly with our neighbors. We would do it cleanly. We would do it on our terms. So we wouldn't need places like the UAE. Now, if the UAE comes here and invests, I think it's a wonderful thing, because the people of the UAE and its leadership are very intelligent, and they're creating a reciprocal cycle of economic activity. And that's a very good thing, because if we put 12 billion there, at the very least, they're putting 10 billion here, you are creating a cycle. The skills and the things that Pakistanis develop there should be redeployed here, and the new skills should be transferred to the UAE. And this is how economic systems between countries thrive on positive terms. So I don't view us and the UAE as in any form asymmetric, but actually complementary economies. And I believe that the UAE's leadership is very prudent, and I think that the comments by our leadership are very true, that the UAE has diversified and done incredible work, but that work has rested on the sweat of Pakistanis. So the debt is mutual, and the economic gains are mutual. And therefore, I see this expanding manyfold. And it isn't just the UAE. There is Qatar, there is Bahrain, there is Saudi Arabia. There are other economic hubs like this for whom Pakistan provides things and takes things in a reciprocal manner. So this prudence of our leadership and their leadership is a very good sign.
All right. Thank you very much. It's smart to have joined us. We're getting a bit short of time, or else I would have continued my discussion. Last question to the both of you, very, very small answers. The Prime Minister, while talking on a conference on Innovate Together, UAE Pakistan Tech Conference, says that nations have made their mark and have left indelible footprints only through sacrifice, hard work, sweat and blood. In your point of view, if I were to ask you in one phrase to the both of you, Jaleel Saab and Dr. Saab, which kind of strategy needs to be implemented to instill confidence in the youth that are the bulge in Pakistan, while pushing them to strive for excellence for Pakistan's economic prosperity?
Actually, in the light of the Prime Minister's statement, you can easily, you can gain that the vision that he has got in his mind. Number one problem of Pakistan is joblessness. We need to finish it by increasing job opportunity in the country. And it depends upon how smart, the governance structure we first cultivate. And secondly, the social sector of the society has to be developed with the help of a very smart chain supply system.
All right.
That is very number one. And number two is that a lot of big economic loss, big economic wealth we are losing on account of, environmental destruction. This is something which should be addressed. As you know, the green technology has become it is getting
exactly
popular.
That is also something that has been
in order to
retrieve
better environment for human health and production of the agriculture fruits. And then another important thing is the cottage industry. Heavy industry or heavy engineering industry, it depends a lot that how far your cottage industry can support their infrastructure.
All right, Dr. Saab, how would you like to add to what Jaleel Saab has just said?
Yeah, I think they rightly mentioned the stuff. The phrase that we are using at PIDE is let the people to do work, to do business. What we have to do, what government has to do for this to finish or to support this phrase is to scrap all kind of requirement.
True.
Make this system a very easy, a simplified, make some basic principles where everyone have to follow that. And the rest, there will be no need of any requirement, no need of any NSC. Let the people do business. Then there would be a check and balance mechanism. Once they are doing their business, you can always make sure that they will do in the right direction. Then there will be some sort of check. But even if you try to establish a restaurant in Islamabad, you need a years to get all kind of NOCs from the
all those things need to be simplified, streamlined.
All these are the hurdle that discourage our youth, and they are like they are not hopeful. That's the key finding. One of the study conducted at PIDE, that one of the key finding that they wanted to leave this country because of these restrictions. We have to come out of this narrative of security state. We have to develop a narrative of economic state. The other regional countries do the same thing. Look at the example of neighboring country. They promote the concept of economic, they promote the concept of private sector led growth, and they allow private sector to make any kind of investment. We can learn a lot of things from UAE, from KSA, how they allow their own citizens to do any kind of business, how they promote the tourism. Can we allow that kind of tourism in our country? We are not allowing that. Then how we can believe that the tourism will come to us? Lot of restriction to them. We need to change our mind.
For example, the KSA has completely changed its strategy as far as economic policies are concerned.
They are like
bringing in dividends.
Yeah, they are the if we believe on Islamic ideology, he would be everything for us. That's the fundamental belief for all of us. The KSA would be the example.
And the Vision 2030, I think, is something
look
that
at the Vision 2030. Can we make such type of vision in our country?
We need to.
Then
if we want to progress,
then we have to.
Then we have to.
come out of this polarization concept.
I agree. We have to leave it at that. Thank you very much, Dr. Nasir Iqbal, Head of PIDE Macro Policy Lab. I wish you all the best for the coming 2 days. And Abdul Jaleel Saab, I hope we will see more of you in the coming days as well. And of course, Dr. Usman Chohan to have joined us as well, to have talked about these two very important issues concerning Pakistan's economy, whether it be the relationship between Pakistan and the IMF, or whether it be the visit of our Prime Minister to the United Arab Emirates. Let's wish Pakistan all the very best, and let's hope, as our eminent panelists have said, that there's a continuity of policies, that there's a simplification of procedure, and of course more incentives are given not only to those who come to Pakistan but also to those who are in Pakistan, so that we can grow from within and from outside as well. Let's come to our next story, and that concerns the first Pakistani to have won 2 Emmys this year. Now, umairmohsin is in Toronto. I hope he still is in Toronto. He managed to obtain 2 Emmy Awards this year. He had already won 1 Emmy Award in the past years for another show, that was NHL Tonight. And this year also he has managed to win 2 Emmy Awards in, of course, Best Post Production and Best Art Direction. Omar, are you with us?
Yes.
All right, Umar, first of all, congratulations on having achieved this distinction of having 1 Emmys and now having 2. So you've got in the last couple of years 3 Emmy Awards in total. First of all, to all of those who do not know, describe us what you do exactly.
First of all, I would like to thank you for having me on your show. And thank you very much. And about myself, I am creative designer. I work as a creative consultant and a creative director. And I started my career in Pakistan 20 years ago. And currently I'm working in Toronto with some of the companies here. And there is a major studio there that I work for them and create all kind of sports graphics for mostly the major leagues happening in the US.
All right. We'll have to go to a very quick spate of question and answers. These projects that you're having, this last project that you did for NHL Tonight, and this time also you got 2 Emmys, Best Post Production, Best Art Direction, for a program that was in collaboration with the ESPN and Pixar. It was to bring what we call Toy Story, which is basically an animated feature, characters into sports graphic. How did you get the project, and did you expect when you were, working on it, that you'll get an Emmy?
Actually, ESPN has been our client from the last 10 to 15 years, and we have done a lot of projects with them. So the last year they came up with this unique idea, like bringing the Toy Story character into the sports graphics, which was very unique. And when it come to us, our senior director, creative director, Jocelyn, was very happy, and she decided to take on it, and we go in the full power for that. It was a kind of a bumpy road for us in the start to get the approval from the Pixar. When you are working with the Pixar, it's like you are working with one of the biggest company in the world. So it was very hard to start that project. But when we started, we know it's a unique concept, and we were hoping that it will go to the Sports Emmy. And eventually it got nominated. And when we were there, it was like we had a kind of a gut feeling that we're going to win. Not 2, but at least for the 1, we had a feeling. But by the grace of Allah, thank you. We won both of them. That was amazing.
Wonderful. We wish you all the very best in your future projects, and I hope we'll be taking you on very soon to talk about future Emmys that you will be winning, inshallah, in the coming years. And it is such a moment of pride to talk to people from our nation who are making Pakistan proud in other nations, in other collaborations, getting Oscars, getting Emmy Awards, and yours, of course, this time this makes 3 Emmys for you. So congratulations again, and all the very best to you and to your company as well. Thank you, Omar. That was umairmohsin, who has recently managed to get 2 Emmy Awards in, of course, Best Post Production and Best Art Direction, and that adds to his already Emmy Award that he had gotten for NHL Tonight, that is a sports show. Let's come to our last 2 stories very, very quickly. A mind-boggling number of shining galaxies, a purple and orange, a nursery, and a spiral galaxy that is very similar to our Milky Way have been unearthed as new images have been revealed from Europe's Euclid Space Telescope yesterday. This is the second set of images that have been released by the European Space Agency since the Euclid launched last year in the first ever mission to investigate the mysteries of dark matter and dark energy. What wonderful, spectacular, way to understand how the universe works. And finally, today is the International Day of Markhor, ladies and gentlemen. Markhor is an animal that is found abundantly in the mountain areas of Pakistan. The numbers in Pakistani mountainous areas is increasing, not as much in other areas, but at least in Pakistan we are taking the necessary steps. The day recognizes the importance of preserving the Markhor and its natural habitat. That is what Pakistan will continue to do. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah on Monday with news stories and segments that pertain to you and to Pakistan. Have a wonderful weekend. Allah Hafiz.